Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants, helping doctors keep their pulse on success. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich. I'm joined by my good friend, Dr. Troy Fox. Troy, how are we? We're like a couple of weeks off of our big doctor's retreat, where we masterminded the best practices in the profession today with some of the brightest minds in the profession today.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still on high from it. It was such an amazing weekend. One of the things that we talked about, you know, usually everybody, we have one of our questions that people send in from to Troy's email box. But
no question today.
I really want to talk
topic.
I really want to talk about exit strategy. And we spent a lot of time in our conference in Dunedin, Florida, talking about exit strategy. And we find this is a big hole that a lot of doctors have. They haven't thought about their exit strategy. And you're probably thinking, well, you know, I'm 10, 15, 25 years from thinking about retirement. That's not too soon to start strategizing how you're going to leave the practice at some point, whether it's retirement or because you get injured or whatever the case may be. Yeah, there's all kinds of scenarios that can pop up.
Practice-ending injury is the one that most people don't think of. They think, I'm going to grow old gracefully, and eventually I need to put a strategy in place. But I got to tell you, we had doctors in the room with us this last weekend when we were working on this and going through this that actually had not only almost career-ending injuries, but almost life-ending injuries.
Absolutely.
And they weren't expecting it. So
it happens.
Yeah. So having a plan in place is very important, right?
It is important. So you really need to think through this. And this is one of the things that we do with clients is we help them build those exit strategies when they're ready to do so. And there's so many different facets. It's really kind of this gargantuan, multi-part, everything moving at the same time process to pull it all together. Yeah. And you have to look at different avenues. You have to think about all the different ways that you can exit the practice. You know, and a lot of us think, well, I'll just get an associate who can eventually, you know, maybe buy me out or something. That's not the only way to exit the practice. So,
and sometimes it's not the best way.
And sometimes it's not the best way. Yeah. And one of the things that I see doctors not doing is they're not understanding how to and creating a valuation for their practice every year. You know, in the meeting, and again, we're with some of the brightest minds in the profession. I asked everybody to raise their hands if they know what the value of their practice is. And I'm going to tell you, you out there listening, very few of you are going to be able to raise your hand knowing what the value of your practice is. And this is incredibly important. Your practice, other than maybe your home, or if you drive a Rolls Royce or something, your practice is probably one of your biggest assets. Yeah. So what do you have it valued at on your balance sheet?
And are you aware of what drops or increases the value of your practice? I mean, I thought that was a very poignant part of what we talked about with clients today was what are the things that if you know, whether you do or don't know, but what are things like equipment age, you know, you know,
number of new patients,
those all impact by massive percentages.
Massive, yes.
So when I say massive, we're talking like 10%, but 10% for each category, you could very easily diminish the value of your practice by 50% almost overnight. Do you know what those numbers are? Because that's very important when we start to do evaluation.
It's hugely important. And there's this traditional bell curve, if you will, in the value of a practice. And in the beginning of your practice life, in like the first 10 years, maybe 15 years, you're really driving the practice and you're out there bringing in new patients and your patient visits are high because you're young and bulletproof at that point. And then you hit a plateau and you've been in practice 15, 20 years and you think, you know, maybe I want to kind of kick back a little bit, kind of enjoy the fruits of my labor, do some traveling. I don't want to see as many patients. And you start tipping the scale and going down. And as you're going down the other side of the curve, so is your revenue because you're not seeing as many patients. You're not driving the practice as hard.
Right.
And you're also not replacing equipment, keeping up with technology and those kind of things.
And you're getting older, and so are your patients.
And so are your patients. And so pretty soon, you're completely on the backside of that bell curve. You go to sell your practice thinking, man, I'm going to retire. This was the greatest practice ever. Yep. Somebody's going to pay me $500,000 for it. And you find out it's worth about $45,000.
Right.
So you got to keep up with the value of your practice and know each and every year what the value of that practice is on your balance sheet.
And you know what's great about that? What we talked about with our clients today was how to flatten that curve.
Yep.
Because the thing is, you don't want to be over here with a practice that's only 10% of what you think it's really valued
Right.
at. So if we can flatten that curve out, we can actually create a situation where your practice is worth a lot more. We can make sure that you are closer to, you know, a position to where you
Right.
can sell that practice and actually generate the revenue that you think. And it's probably never going to be exactly what you think, because I think we all have a pie in the sky number that our practice is so awesome, our patients are so awesome. And then we go, oh, reality, you know, where rubber meets the road. But if I could get you a lot closer to that number, it would be awesome. And that's
Right.
really what we talked about today, is how do we get there? And it's really not complex, but you have to go through all the steps to get there.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So we want to get that curve, instead of a traditional bell curve, we want to get that curve up and then as flat as possible.
Yep.
And like Troy said, you can't ever sell your practice at the absolute top of the value. If you do, it's probably by happenstance.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's kind of like buying and selling stocks.
Yeah.
You know, the goal at least is to write it up and sell it at the top, but by the time you get around to selling it, it may have dropped a little bit. But
If
the
you're-
goal is to keep it as high
Yeah,
as you can.
if you're that good at selling your practice at its peak, I want to know what stocks you're invested
Right,
in.
yeah, call us.
Yeah, exactly. Call us.
So, understanding the value of your practice and managing that value, in other words, calculating that value, and again, this is one of the things we help our members with at CATS Consultants, is helping them know how to calculate that value each year and getting that number on their balance sheet so they see their net worth growing
Yeah.
over time.
That alone, just understanding what needs to change in your practice, and they could be some
Right.
small changes, could actually add $50,000 to $100,000 to the valuation of your practice.
Easily.
And if you don't know it, then somebody comes in, values your practice, and goes, well, it's worth this. But they don't tell you, here's what you needed to change. They just say, your practice is worth this. So even that alone is worth the price of admission, from
That's
a
right.
standpoint of having somebody look at it that understands how to boost the value of your practice, which is very important.
It's hugely important. So, no matter where you are in practice, I don't care if you've been in practice 5 years or 45 years, start looking at how to build the value in that asset, because when your exit strategy kicks in and you're ready to be done with the practice or whatever may happen, you're going to get as maximum of a value out of it as you possibly can.
Yeah, an exit strategy is pretty contagious once it starts.
Yes.
Yeah, all of a sudden it starts. It's kind of like when you decide you want to buy a new car, and you're like, well, I'm not so sure. And then like a week later, you've already got a new car in your driveway. Once it comes time for exit strategy and it's not due to an injury or an illness, and you decide, you're going to be in a pretty big hurry. I mean, we've seen that an awful lot.
Yeah.
So it's
So start planning ahead.
planning well ahead. So that way, when you're ready to pull the trigger, the whole thing's ready for you.
Yep, absolutely. All right, everybody, I think that closes us out for today. So thanks for listening to the KC CHIROpulse podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants. You can check us out at catsconsultants.com. Be sure to go to the top right corner of the CATS Consultants website. You can schedule a free breakthrough consultation with us to see if we can help you grow your practice and be more successful.
Absolutely.
So I'm Dr. Michael Perusich, Dr. Troy Fox. Thanks for tuning in today. Stay informed and well adjusted.
See ya.